never been. Till you put me down, oh, I knew you were.
Okay, we're going to do a quiz review for Unit 6, Exception Handling and Assertions. Okay, errors can be what? Compile time, run time, or logic. Actually, they can be all of those. We learned in our unit there are 3 types of errors. There are compile errors, there are runtime errors, and there are logic errors. All 3 of them. Question 2. The base class for all exceptions is what? Throwable. We learned in our section that the throwable class is the base class. Okay? It's predefined in Java. Third question. To handle exceptions, you need code and you need what blocks? Try, catch, finally. Actually, you need all of them. Right here in the class, it tells you need try, catch, and finally. These 3 together are called the exception statements. You need all 3 blocks. Next question asks us, the part of the code that invokes error handling routines when an error occurs is known as what? Exception handling. Tells you right here in the beginning of the chapter. The method of capturing and analyzing these errors or exception, either by the computer or programmer, is known as exception handling. So now comes the matching. The following exceptions with their descriptions. Arithmetic goes with a math error. See that? Array index out of bounds goes with 5. A reference made to a value that is not an array. An illegal argument used to invoke a method that goes with an illegal argument exception. An index out of bounds exception goes with some type of index is out of bounds. That's with 4. And finally, a null pointer exception is an invalid use of a null reference right here, 2. Here on page 6, it goes into more detail on all these exceptions. Arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, array index out of bound exception, invalid argument exception, and number format exception. Next question. Which keyword is an assertion? That's assert, of course. So here we have an example of an assertion program. So here's your keyword, assert, right here. That's where it's used. Assertion program. So how many forms of assertion are there? There's 2. Here on page 4, you have the first form here, and they discuss it in a little detail. And then they come over here to the second form and discuss that in some detail. And lastly, an assertion must contain what expression? Right answer is Boolean. Right here on page 3, each assertion statement must contain a Boolean expression. It must be either true or false. Okay, and that is Unit 6. Now let's do a quiz review for Unit 7 with the graphical user interface. So what is the AWT? Is that the Abstract Window Toolkit? Is that the Applet Window Toolkit? Is that the Application Window Toolkit? Or the Applet Wing Toolkit? It's A, the Abstract Window Toolkit. You look right on here on page 3. Tells you right here. It's the Abstract Window Toolkit. That's what AWT stand for. Next question. A GUI consists of how many components? 3. Same page. GUI consists of 3 things. Graphical components like icons, listener methods that aid in getting the events and responses to the method, and application methods perform the action tied to the event initiated by the user. Next, what are used to capture events and respond to them? Graphical components, listener methods, application methods, or AWT method. Listener methods. So here in section D on page 5 we talk about listeners, and specifically you come here to listener methods, and it explains a little bit more detail all about that. Question 4, what is an applet? An applet is an application. They're small little programs that are executed by a web browser. What is the disadvantage of an applet? Well, most of these are advantages. The one disadvantage is that you need to plug them to run an applet usually. So here in section B on page 7, you see the advantages and disadvantages of applets. And here you see specifically to run an applet and Java plugin is required. All applet programs import what? The Java applet package. Why? Of course. Here you see on page 3, right here, it tells you all applets are part of the applet class. And so import Java applet. So on the same page it asks you, applets are Java programs that are embedded within what? HTML code tags. Here on the same page, it tells you right here that they're incorporated in HTML file and HTML tags. Okay, which method loads the applet? The start method. So here on page 5 it tells us the start method is the one used to load the applet. It executes each time an applet is displayed on the screen. Next question. The applet will be executed by the Java-enabled web browser when the page meets blank tags within the HTML file, applet tags. You can see right here, there's your applet tags. Right back on page 3. When the applet unloads, the cleanup process of the applet is handled by the destroy method. Here we see on page 7, the destroy method is equivalent to a destructor in a class. Destroy method in applet is called only once in applet's life, when the applet unloads the cleanup process of the applet and is handled by the destroyed method. Next, when a scroll bar is manipulated, a blank event is invoked. An adjustment is invoked. And here in section D, under your event classes, you'll see that an adjustment event happens when a scroll bar is manipulated, right here on page 6. Blank may be any object which generates the event. That's an event source. Here you see on page 4, a source is an object that creates an event. D. Methods that receive and process events are defined in a set of interfaces specified in the blank package. How about java.awt.event package, huh? Here on page 5, methods that receive and process events are defined in a set of interfaces specified in the java.awt.event package. Number 14, when a mouse or key event happens or occurs, a what is invoked? An input method. An input event is when is when a mouse or a key event happens. Blank is a piece of code that simply waits till it receives an event. That's the listener. Once again, you can read more about that on page 5. And that is your quiz 7.